welcome to Pandemic Parenting. I am your host, Greg Freeberry, and looks like we got a little co-host, Mr. Matthew McConaughey, today. I didn't realize his face was right in the screen until I just started, but I'm actually reading his book, Green Lights, his biography with my friend. So welcome, Matthew, to the show today as well. He'll be joining us. We also got Filipa Bellette joining us today, and Filipa is a nutritionist and a functional medicine practitioner. And she's going to share with you how you can use your diet and other functional medicine techniques to get control of your life. And she really helps high achieving parents avoid body burnout. So it's really incredible the impacts that just a few small changes to your diet can have. So if you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling like you're too busy, you're stressed out all the time, and you're starting to show a lot of symptoms, you've been to the doctor, they can't figure out what's going on, you've tried supplements, you tried this, you tried that, nothing seems to be working. Well, stick around for Filipa's advice, because she gives some really good gold nuggets in this one, and maybe she has a solution for you. So stick around for that. And as always, please go check out my website, Think&Evolve.academy. If you want to help your kids have more academic success, you can find my program for test anxiety on there. Also have blog posts sharing various ideas to maximize mindset, emotional awareness, and academic success for your kids. And I've started posting on Instagram since the beginning of the year, so at think.and.evolve. So where I share funny memes, helpful memes, informational memes, and some reels just with my day-to-day thoughts, my day-to-day ideas about improving education. Some stuff that you might be interested in. So we got a great show for you today. Let's dive into the interview with Filipa. Glad you're here.
All right, hello there, and welcome to Pandemic Parenting. Today I'm here with Filipa Bellette. She is a functional medicine practitioner with Chris and Philly Functional Medicine, and she helps high achieving parents avoid body burnout. So Filipa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Greg. How are you going?
It's a little rainy here in LA, but I was able to get my workout in just before the rain hits. So I'm feeling
nice. It's a lovely sunny and summer day in Australia, in Tassie.
Yeah. It's summer down there, so that's really...
It is summer. It's beautiful.
Incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so usually I like to start the show, just ask you a few little rapid fire personal questions about yourself, just to kind of have a little good time and get everyone to know you a little bit. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I'm thinking, since you are like a functional medicine practitioner, like what's your favorite food? What's your like go-to food?
That is so hard.
I know.
I'm a massive foodie. I love sweet potato in all forms. Sweet potato is amazing. I have a bit of a sweet tooth. I used to be a very big sugar addict. Now it's under control, but I still love vegan chocolate with like all natural sweeteners, and I love making like the vegan paleo type slices. They're probably my little favorite naughty treats, but they're not naughty if you have them in small amounts.
You can have a little bit here and there, right?
Exactly.
All right, awesome. So let's see, what's your like go-to favorite travel destination?
Okay. Oh, look, our family, maybe since lockdown and COVID and not being able to travel a lot, my family have been doing a lot of local. So in Tasmania, we're the little island at the bottom of Australia, just lots of Airbnb 2-night getaways, and they've been awesome. I mean, I probably would go somewhere over on the other side of the world for my favorite destination, but that's been really nice just to get away and creating lots of awesome memories with my family.
Yeah, that's nice to get just like a little weekend getaway. Can
get
in and out real quick.
Yeah.
A little deeper. Let's see, like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done?
Oof. Bravest thing. Probably given birth.
I don't doubt it.
That was very scary and hard.
How many times have you done that?
Well, the one for my first baby was just like a natural vaginal birth. Second one, I had a lot of complications with the first one, which I'll probably talk about a bit later. So second one was a cesarean, which is also scary in a way too, getting sliced open and
Yeah,
baby pulled out of you.
I would say so. And then, do you have like a favorite book that you like learned a lot of wisdom from?
Hmm. Probably, there's way too many and so many. Every book that I read, I'm like, oh, I love that book. That's my new favorite book. But probably the very first book that I read around nutrition and functional health was a book called Deep Nutrition. It's not one that many people know of. I can't even think of the author's name now, but Deep Nutrition changed, like it was literally the thing that changed my life and led me down the track of like healthy eating and functional medicine and healing my body.
Okay, amazing. Well, that's actually a great answer because now we can just pivot right into that. So
Yeah.
the next thing I really wanted to ask you was, the funny thing was when I like first reached out to you, you described yourself as a dragon mom after your first child. And so in that, you noticed that you had like a lot of things had to change. So
Mhm.
I was just curious about how you went from there to your journey to becoming a functional medicine practitioner and teaching people how to live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, awesome. So I would say the dragon mom still pops her head up from time to time. Ask my 6-year-old daughter. I had a little dragon mom moment the other day. But so my kids are now 6 and 9. And after the first baby, prior to having kids, I thought that I was pretty healthy. But looking back, I could see that there were a lot of dysfunctional, unhealthy things going on symptom wise. Like I was infertile for one thing. It took us like 3 years to even have a baby. And I had this weird vasovagal episodes where I would faint all the time and wee myself and fit. And, that would happen maybe like once every month or 2 months. So that's not normal. But in my mind, I'm like, but I can still do all that I want to do. Like I was studying a PhD at the time, training my butt off, like in terms of gym and boot camps, eating all the whatever the heck I wanted to. And I felt like I was unstoppable. Like I could still do everything that I wanted to do. Then I had my first baby, Poppy, and the pregnancy was great, but the birth was quite traumatic. It was a 3-day labor. I wanted it to be all natural and hypnobirthing and all that sort of stuff, but I ended up having all the drugs and the forceps and the suction cup. And in the end, she came out as well as a lot of ripping of vagina and bowel. And so there was a lot of physical trauma there. But after I had her, my bladder also stopped working. So there was a lot of nerve damage to my bladder. And I literally had no sensation to pee. So I could go, well, I was in the hospital. I think the nurses were like, have you done a wee yet? And I think it had been 24 hours. And I'm like, no, I don't feel like I need to. And so anyway, they ended up putting a catheter in, and I can't remember how. I think it was like 5 liters. Maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but heaps and heaps and heaps of urine. And they're like, holy crap, how did you not feel that and not have the need to go to the toilet? Anyway, that alone did more damage to the bladder because it stretched so much. And so I had to, for the first 3 or 4 months after having my first baby, I had to have an internal catheter in my wee hole. And so during that time, I was on heaps of antibiotics to prevent UTIs, as well as during the time, I think I picked up 2 or 3 UTIs, ended up back in hospital with the IV antibiotics into my bloodstream. So just totally screwing up my microbiome with the amount of antibiotics that I was having. Plus the, I guess, trauma of having like a little baby when I was still really physically sick, depleted. She was crying all the time. I feel like she had really bad colic and was vomiting all the time. And I feel like it was probably because all the antibiotics were coming through the breast milk and affecting her microbiome as well. And so anyway, from there, eventually I got the catheter out and my bladder started working again. But when after that happened, every month I just noticed something new happening, like physically and mentally to my body. So first of all, it was really low immunity. My immune system had been fine before that, maybe just like the random flu or cold once a year. But every 2 or 4 weeks, I was getting really sick with colds and flus. Sometimes they would develop into infections. I'd get over one, then I'd catch another one. My body started aching a lot, and I actually like literally injured my back at the gym to the point where I was in chronic pain. Some days I was just lying in bed all day. Anxiety was a big one for me, and that's where I feel the Dragon Mom came out, because I just couldn't cope with life at all, let alone having a little baby to care for. And so for me, the anxiety showed up as a lot like anger. So I was just like losing it all the time at my husband and my newborn baby. I eventually had a second baby 3 years later. And I feel like the Dragon Mom really reared up after that second baby too, just because my body was so depleted and burnt out from lots of different things. So that all happened. And after I had my second baby, she was probably 4 months. And I just remember one day I just really lost my cool. I was screaming at them. This is really sad, but I ended up locking myself in the bedroom, huddling in the corner in my bedroom and just like sobbing, so ashamed that I was acting this way when, we'd been praying for 3 years that we could have a baby because we had infertility issues. And I had this vision of myself as like the mom and having my children and all this love in our family, yet I wasn't experiencing that. And I got to a point where I'm like, I'm going to psychologically damage these children if I don't get myself in order. And so that's what then led me to really going down the functional medicine path to try and figure out what actually was wrong inside my body and inside my mind. And then like fixing the imbalances and addressing root causes. And so anyway, did that and got myself better. And now it's like my mission, because I feel like there's so many moms in particular that have the same story as me. Maybe it's showing up in different ways in like symptom wise, but so many moms just so depleted after having children and sleepless nights and the trauma to the body. And then we work with a lot of high achievers too. So they're still trying to like hustle and grind and achieve with work, and the body just like burns out, and it shows up big time, like within the family relationships.
Wow, that's an incredible story. You really went through the ringer there. It's beautiful to see you so like vibrant and alive right now. So, whatever you did seemed to work. And and like, yeah, I think it also goes to show that, you can like do mind over matter and plow through it and just like get everything done. But eventually your body does burn out. Like it will catch up in the end.
Yeah.
And now it's time for another Deep Thoughts with Greg. So I absolutely love Filipa's story here because it's a theme that I find so often in my own life. Like I have this big grand master plan, this big vision of how I want things to work out, and then life comes along and just smacks me right in the face, and like it's a big wake up call, and things don't turn out the way that I planned it. So Filipa talked about how she had this big vision for how she wanted her birth to go, and it'd be like hypnobirth and all natural and all that good stuff. But in reality, when 3-day labor set in, she had to take all the drugs, and they had to use forceps and all the things she didn't probably want to happen, but what kind of had to happen in order for the birth to go along safely. And then I'm sure she wanted to be like super mom, the best mom ever. And then she really couldn't because she had all these immune problems, and she was getting irritable. She probably wasn't sleeping well. And then she was getting the cold and the flu, and it was hitting her every 2 to 4 weeks. And she was becoming Dragon Mom. And it's like she said, she had a baby too, that it's like, just because she was feeling sick and down and low and like upset and all that good stuff, like she had a baby to care for. Like you can't just be like, well, I'm not going to do that today. Like that's why parenthood is just shout out to all the parents once again, just because, this baby demands all of your attention, all of your time, and there's no days off, right? You have to keep showing up for this kid no matter what your state is. So, I really love Filipa's story because she had that moment, that aha moment, where she was in the bathroom. She's like, I'm going to psychologically damage these kids if I don't do something. So there's this idea that I love, that from Viktor Frankl, and he said, like, don't ask like what you want from life. Don't ask what the meaning of life is. Instead, life asks you what the meaning is and demands an answer from you. So instead of asking what you want from life, a better question is to ask, what does life want from you? Because sometimes what we expect, our expectations, do not align with how life really goes. So I thought that's such a great story, such an inspiring story. Something to be reminded of, that life is always going to happen. It's going to throw wrenches in the system, and you just have to adapt. You have to be adaptable, and you have to be okay letting go of your perfect vision of what you wanted. It doesn't mean you don't still work towards that vision. You try and create it with the best of, use all your best of your abilities. But, when life does come along and throws in problems, you just adapt and you stay flexible. And now Filipa's doing great. You can tell she has like that amazing energy when she speaks. And now she's going to start talking more about functional medicine and how it changed her life and how it can help change your life as well. So let's get back to the interview.
So I am curious, like, what exactly is functional medicine, and how do you use it to help people live healthier lives?
Yeah, so functional medicine, it's actually probably a lot more well-known, popular in USA. In Australia, it's a little bit more of a newer territory. But basically, functional medicine is it's root cause medicine, and it's using natural therapies to heal the body. The difference between, say, traditional naturopathy or nutritional medicine is that functional medicine also combines science with natural therapies. So it's using specialized functional lab testing to identify body systems and imbalances in the body that your regular GP or medical specialist doesn't look at. So rather than, like, their testing is great because it's diagnosing diseases, which, is important to know. But functional medicine lab testing is more diagnosing functional imbalances in the body, which can develop into symptoms. And if left unchecked, it can then develop later on into conditions and diseases that then GP testing kind of pick up. So this type of lab testing, some of the things that I did for myself and for clients is stool testing, definitely. So looking at the microbiome, beneficial bacteria, pathogens. Because of all of the antibiotics that I had so many pathogens. Like, I was kind of like appalled and grossed out when I got my stool test results back. I'm like, holy crap, I've got like yeast infections and parasites and bacterial infections. My microbiome was really depleted. Really common to see a microbiome that's depleted in like almost everyone that we test for, just because of the world that we live in. Also looking at things like leaky gut. Have you heard of leaky gut?
I have heard of it, but feel free to expand.
Okay, cool. So leaky gut is basically like your gut lining should be nice and strong, but it can start separating, which can then lead to things leaking out of it into the bloodstream. That can cause a lot of inflammation and damage. So gut testing, I also look at hormones, so adrenal stress hormones. Again, they're so important, like so many, for myself included, but many people that we work with when we do an adrenal protocol healing program based on their lab tests, amazing results that happen, like more energy, more mental clarity, mental health issues come down, yet GPs disregard that as being a thing. And I'm like, there's like so much evidence to show that people feel so much better when you're actually treating these things. Looking at the mitochondria, so how well you're converting food into energy, looking at all your detox pathways, and brain testing. So I love doing that, looking at your neurotransmitters such as dopamine, adrenaline, serotonin, especially when it comes to Dragon Mum, because if your neurotransmitters have depleted, then that often shows up as anxiety, depression, exhaustion, which then causes you to be crabby and irritable because you're so exhausted all the time. Did that answer your question? So that's, yeah. And then from there, like what we do in our practice is we take the labs, but we're also wanting to treat the whole person and personalize, like it's personalized medicine. So I love the lab tests. And when I first started practicing, I was just so obsessed with the labs. I'm like, oh yeah, wow, let's treat that. And I kind of forgot that there was a person behind the lab. So now we look at those, but then we also look at the person's mindset and their environment and their relationships and what are these other things that are imbalanced in their life, which could either be causing the body burnout or preventing the body systems from actually healing. So taking a very holistic approach to healing the body.
Yeah, I love that. Totally. Yeah, look at all the parts because it's really all interconnected at
Yes.
the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then I was just curious as you're going through it, it sounds like there's so many tests. Like, would a person just go to their doctor and ask for these tests, or is there like a side lab that they would go to and ask for the tests? Like, where can they get it done?
Yeah, so so being an accredited, so clinical nutritionist, functional medicine practitioner, I can actually order the labs, and all the lab tests, most of them are done via spit, pee, or poo. And so our clients would take the lab test kits home and they actually take the samples and then they send them off to the labs. We have some in Australia. There's ones in all countries that use similar types of testing.
Okay. So they could just come to someone like you and you can just get the tests all ordered up for them. All right.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. I have had clients ask their GP and the GP are like, what test are you talking about?
So yeah, I'm curious. You mentioned you work with a lot of high achievers.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were kind of talking about a little bit, like, I think high achievers in particular are good at just like kind of shutting down maybe what their body's telling them so they can plow through and get things done. So I'm just curious, what are some ways parents might be able to tell they're kind of reaching that body burnout stage, and how can they kind of step back from the edge a little bit and avoid it?
Yeah, good question. So myself too, I call myself not only a recovering dragon mom, but a recovering addicted doer, because I find that high achievers are very much like do, achieve, create, which is great. Like it's awesome. And I wouldn't want to be any different, but there needs to be balance as well. And so actually I've just written a blog post on my website. Part of this was, featured in Forbes last year as well. So I wrote an article on 7 signs your productivity is a real problem. And so for high achievers too, like you want to be on top of your game and your mental clarity should be there and you want the energy to be able to do the things that you want to do. And so some of the things from a physical symptom perspective that I would be thinking about is energy. So if you're waking up feeling really exhausted, like you haven't slept, even if you've slept 8 hours, or if you feel like you need to have that afternoon nap, or you get to 6 or 7 p.m. at night and you're like, I need to go to bed before the kids, that's not normal. Yet a lot of people will just push through, or they'll be using stimulants throughout the day to get through. So caffeine, energy drinks, coffee, sugar to try and pick them up. Sometimes I talk to people too and I'm like, so how's your energy? Oh, energy is fine. And then I'll get to like in an initial consult, I'll get to the food section. I'm like, holy crap, you're having 12 coffees a day. No wonder your energy is fine. What would happen if you're not having those coffees? And they're like, oh yeah, I couldn't function without it. So that is a big warning signal that something is not right. And the thing with doing the stimulants too is it's going to burn the body systems out even further. So there are ways that you can reverse that so you can still have that abundance of energy without burning it out. Brain fog would be another one too. So if you're just like feeling like you're swimming through life, swimming through like a cloud, forgetting things, forgetting people's names, forgetting words. And for a lot of people that struggle with brain fog, especially if it's a new thing and it's like, holy crap, my mind used to be so sharp. it can be really scary. And so again, I'd be thinking about that. If you're feeling like you're just not coping with stresses as well as what you used to, so you're getting anxious, you're getting overwhelmed, even like snapping at the kids all the time, when if you were to rationalize, should I actually be snapping at that? Probably not. Like it's something that you would have brushed off or laughed off in the past. Or maybe also to like from a high achieving work point of view, you might have been able to kind of like been all over projects, and now you can only focus on one thing because adding more things into your basket, again, just overwhelming anxiety. They're probably the main things, but then also pain and inflammation start showing up. So sometimes people, it's like that mind over matter thing. It's like, yeah, I can push through, but your body will send you signals and sometimes it will start screaming at you. And so sometimes, like for some people, see a lot of gut issues. So you start getting food sensitivities, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, pretty common, heartburn. It might be headaches, migraines. For women, your hormones can often start playing up, PMS, painful periods. Or even just like achy body. So whether that's joint pain or just muscle pain, or when you exercise, you're not recovering very well. These are all signs that you're probably burning the candle at both ends, and you need to get a little bit of help and some balance in your life.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. And yeah, I can kind of notice too, especially when I'm like working out, for example, like the difference between, say, I'm maybe just trying to avoid something uncomfortable versus like when I'm like pain and it like I need to stop.
Yes.
There's a difference between like me just wanting to be lazy or something, go like take a nap on the couch, versus like my body's like, no, you need to stop right now.
Yeah.
If I slow down enough, I can tell the difference.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like these physical things, it's not just the body being sore or in pain. It's literally that something's out of whack in your life. So it's what you said too, like, oh, pushing it a little bit with the workout. Your body's going to tell you that so that you can back off and find that balance again. Same with like if you're overworking, it's going to show up in some way. Oh, that little sign or this message from my body is telling me that I got to back off a bit. Probably same too with like me being dragon mom and the anxiety and the anger. It was again just a signal from my body that something's out of whack here. And if I look back to, it wasn't just the antibiotics and the traumatic birth, it was that I was still trying to do everything that I had done previous to having kids, as well as having kids, looking after a household, trying to keep my hubby happy. And, like we were on the brink of breakup because I was so out of whack.
Well, I'm glad you got it all back together, because that'd have been a tragedy. So yeah, I mean, so there's like tons of stresses in life, if you're trying to do the work thing and be a parent and be a good spouse. And now we have this whole pandemic, and it's just complicating the matter even further and adding more stress to life.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, why is stress so damaging to the body? And like, what complications and problems does it cause?
Yeah, so stress is so stress comes in many forms. So there's physical stresses. So like what you mentioned too before about maybe overtraining. I mean, even like good balanced exercise is a form of stress. It's just then that you got to rest and recover. Then there's environmental stresses, toxins. There's food, nutritional stresses if you're eating junk foods, processed foods. Then you've got all the emotional stress. So then add in the pandemic, and you've got like all these new things that are going on top of what you're already experiencing. And most people live in quite a stressful, we live in a stressful world. And so stress affects the body in many ways. One of the main ways is your adrenal glands, which secrete your stress hormones, cortisol. So that's that fight flight response hormone, will jack up when you're under stress. Then you've got a balancing stress hormone, which is, the abbreviation is DHEA. So cortisol rises in your bloodstream. DHEA should come in and bring cortisol back into balance. But if there's a lot of chronic stress, in particular, something like the pandemic, which we're now looking at almost 2 years of living in it, Stress, cortisol's the more dominant one. So eventually DHEA will start to deplete because it's constantly trying to bring cortisol back down. But if cortisol is secreting too much in the bloodstream, eventually DHEA will stop secreting, and then you're left in this chronic fight-flight cycle where your body's just producing so much cortisol, which is really inflammatory. Over time too, that cortisol starts to deplete as well, and that's where people get a lot more symptoms. So that's what I call adrenal fatigue, and that is really inflammatory. It's really catabolic, so it literally starts eating away at muscle tissue, burning through minerals, and so you can become very nutrient deficient even if you eat a really good diet. And it also then can cause other systems to start breaking down. So stress or cortisol interacts with the gut, can switch off your digestive tract so that then your organs aren't secreting the juices that it should be. It can then start causing detox issues, because if your gut's not functioning very well, you can't clear toxins effectively because you can't poo things out properly. Also, your neurotransmitters can get burned up when you're under stress, and so then again you're getting those neurotransmitters depleted, and mitochondria too, so that the little organelles in your muscle tissue that convert food into energy. If there are a lot of stresses and inflammation happening inside the body, those mitochondria can literally become damaged due to the inflammation. So it's like stress is huge. And it's not even like a natural therapies, functional medicine thing. Heaps of GPs, lots of like medical research state that stress can cause things like heart disease, tumors, diabetes, because the way it physiologically just breaks down our body.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that stress is one of the just leading causes of all those just awful things like heart disease, cancer, probably because a lot of the things you just mentioned right there, it's nothing good for your body.
All right, quick recap. Filipa shared with us some signs that you may be experiencing body burnout, including low energy, brain fog, pain in the body, or inability to cope with stress. And she also shared the damaging effects that stress can have on our bodies. And I really think personally that the real message of this and all of this is just really listen to your body. Take a moment to slow down and really feel into what your body's trying to tell you. Because we can suppress what our body is feeling. I remember when I was young, I'm not so much a gamer anymore, but I remember I'd get a brand new video game and I'd be so excited, and I'd like run up to my computer and I'd go into like the dark computer room, and then I'd fire it up and I'd just play for hours and hours and hours and hours. And then all of a sudden I'd be like, I could have kept going but then I was like, you know what, maybe I should stop. And then I'd walk out of the room, and this was like before cell phones, so I didn't know what time it was. And then I'd walk out and I'd look at the clock and be like 4 a.m, and I'd realize I hadn't eaten in like 12 hours, and I hadn't even gone to the bathroom in like 12 hours. And then all of a sudden, like once I realized what was happening, then all of a sudden I got hungry. I got really tired and I had to go to the bathroom, like all at once. And it's just crazy how, as humans, we can suppress even those most basic functions like eating, sleeping, and using the restroom. If so, like you could be going, if you're very busy and you got this to do, you got to take care of your kids, you're a high achieving parent, maybe you're trying to run a business, you're trying to sit on a board, you're planning things, you're on a committee, whatever. It's really easy to just be going bam, 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 one thing to the next, and just ignoring all the signs that your body is trying to tell you. So personally, again, I think the really overall message is just take a moment and listen to your body and see if it's trying to tell you, oh, we need to slow down. There's too much stress. We have pain in the body. We're having these symptoms. Low energy, can't sleep, irritable. The body will let you know. Your experience will let you know. So just wanted to share with that. And now we'll get back to Filipa, and she's going to actually start sharing with you some advice on how you can counteract this stress, the brain fog, or if you're experiencing body burnout, how you can get back on track. So this is the best part of the interview right here. So let's get to it.
And so now that we have these higher levels of stress, what are some ways or strategies parents can actually use to relieve some stress in their lives?
Yeah, so like some strategies that your listeners could do right now, is that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So,
Incorporate
I
in
mean,
their lives, their day-to-day lives as well.
yeah. So there's three healing principles so in addition to like the lab testing and nutraceutical supplements are amazing to recharge body systems because they work fast. But then that's not the only thing that we advise. Then there's also body, mind, and environment. So what are they're the three main areas that cause stresses as well. So in terms of some strategies that you could use from a body perspective, like nutrition is a big one. There's a lot of, if you're eating processed foods, inflammatory foods, high sugar foods, all of those are going to create more stress inside the body. So I was about to say, so simply just switch out the junk for the good stuff. I mean, it's not as simple as that for some people, but can reduce a huge load of stress if you start increasing your vegetable intake. And, instead of having a lot of processed packaged food, what can you make from scratch? Sugar is a big one too, because sugar will cause your blood sugar levels to rise, which then causes your cortisol to rise. So even looking at like the way that you're eating. So some people might even have like a whole food breakfast, but it's just oats and water, which is basically carbohydrates, which converts into sugar. So I always try and get our clients to try and think about having some fat, carb, and protein with each meal. So you can just stabilize your blood sugar levels better, which will then help your cortisol levels to function better. Like breathing exercises, so important, meditation, all of these things to help reduce stress levels. I love Epsom salt baths, but like a kilo of Epsom salts in a bath is a beautiful therapeutic. You just like float in it, go to sleep, chuck in some essential oils. Sleep is so important. So sleep is where our body like literally restores, recovers, and heals. So again, thinking about high achieving parents who get the kids to bed and then they're either like, finally I have some time to myself, and might stay up watching Netflix or movies or even reading a book or doing household chores, or like, oh crap, I have a deadline due for work that I haven't been able to do. So then jumping on the computer again and working. And so a lot of people are not going to bed on time. Usually your body like physically heals between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. and then does psychological repair from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So if you're going to bed too late, then physically your body might not be healing very properly. Also, if you're waking up super early, or if you've just got a disrupted sleep throughout the night, and a lot of people do wake up around like a 2 a.m., be between 2 and 4 a.m., then psychologically you're not able to get that repair. So sleep is huge. For some people, they just need to have better sleep hygiene. For other people, they're struggling with insomnia. So that's where I would then say, okay, well, do, some sleep hygiene techniques, make sure you're going to bed on time, turning off screens, doing something relaxing before bed. If that's not helping with sleep, that's often where there's body systems that are imbalanced that are actually affecting your ability to fall asleep. And that's where like therapeutic work would be needed. From an environment point of view, toxins, again, quite stressful. So cleaning products, skincare products, sunscreens, deodorants, all of those things can be switched out for natural stuff. Family can be quite stressful too, with conflict. So, I mean, whether that's just being more mindful in how kids trigger you and how you can not be triggered. Some people need to work with like a therapist to help with that, or a parenting coach. But I feel like, again, looking at sources of stress and things that break down the body, it's a huge one. And it's really crappy that we treat the people that we love the worst sometimes, when it should be the opposite.
And unfortunately, you can't just get rid of the family, right? You can't be like, oh, you guys are stressing me out. Just, you can live for the next 2 weeks.
Now, for some people, especially moms, though, I'm like, you need a weekend away. Like, you literally need time out to yourself. And so I think not just for your sanity, but to love yourself enough so that, and also to fill your cup up, because it's really hard to give to other people and love people if you're not loving yourself, or if your cup is really empty. The other thing with the pandemic too, again, something that we work with, or this is more so my husband, who is a mindset life coach in our practice, you can only control what you can control. So there's so many things in this pandemic world that we can't control, yet so many people are getting very worked up, obsessed about a lot of stuff. And so that will cause anxiety, stress, overwhelm. So again, it's a lot of kind of like mindset, psychological work, but really powerful when you stay within your circle of what you can control. Makes a huge amount of difference in terms of stress.
Yeah, I use that principle a lot myself in my own life. If I'm like getting really tied around something and then I slow down, I'm like, can I do anything about it? Or is it just like, that's the way it is? And if I can't do anything, then I'm like, why am I worrying about it? You know, there's nothing to do. So
yeah,
any energy towards that.
Yeah. It's something I've had to work on a lot too, because I'm a bit of a control freak. But it was really affecting my sleep, especially at the start of pandemic. Like, there were some weeks where I was pretty much an insomniac. And this is after doing all the healing work and everything, but it was just this big trigger that it was just like all my symptoms started coming back. Again, little warning signal that, okay, I can't control these things. So I got to work out what I can control so that my body can calm down.
That's actually, I love that point, because I sometimes get to this place where like, oh, I've done the work, and then I feel like, oh, I've like put that behind me, right? You know, and like, oh, that was in the past, but you know, stuff always kind of like comes back or like rears its head eventually. Yeah. And it's just a gentle reminder that like, okay, you know, I just have to go back and be like, stick to the principles that got me here in the first place. And it's okay, it happens. It's not, it doesn't mean I'm like back at square one and everything I was doing didn't work. So I love that how you're like, oh, I'm insomniac, and you use that as like, oh, well, I need to kind of like back up and commit to my own principles here.
Yes, exactly. It's always a working process. Definitely.
All right, I want to take a moment just to re-emphasize the idea of letting go of control sometimes. And this is an ancient principle found in basically all of the ancient wisdom texts like Buddhism and Confucianism and Taoism and all that stuff. And the idea is, if you really can't control things, but you're still resisting, you put all the energy into it still to keep it alive. So the common saying nowadays is like, what you resist persists. And I teach this principle to my students as well. Like, even just last night, I was working with one of my students, and she hates chemistry. And she spends a lot of the time during our session hating chemistry. And I'm like, and I tell her, look, I understand that you hate chemistry, and I get it, and it's frustrating and it's tough, and I totally know where you're coming from. And why don't you take all that energy you're using to resist having to take chemistry class, resist having to do the chemistry homework, and then just do the thing? Just like you're going to have to take you're in chemistry, you have to be in the class, you have to do this homework anyway. So all this energy you're wasting away to just resist and like hate on chemistry is, you know, it's not useful. Just take all that energy. I told her to rage learn it, you know, just take all that energy and just ragefully learn it, you know, be like, I'll show you chemistry, I'm just going to learn all this. And then, you know, at least that energy is being used well, instead of she's like resisting. And then her results are very lackluster, because instead of just doing the work, she's spending all this time trying not to do the work, even though she knows she has to. So that being said, just in your own life, see where you're trying to grip onto control, hold on to things that you can't really control. Where are you putting energy that would be better spent somewhere else? So when you think about it, can I really do anything to change this situation? Is there anything that I can do to change what I'm resisting? Well, if the answer is no, then let go. If the answer is yes, then maybe you should just do the thing that you can do to change the situation. If the answer is no, well, then just let it go and put that energy somewhere else. All right, we're heading into the final part of the interview. Filipa's going to share some more great advice and some extra resources with you. So stay tuned for the final part. Here we go.
We touched on it a little bit in the last question, but are there ways parents can kind of bring this functional medicine, not just to themselves, but to their entire family, share it with their spouse or their children?
Yeah. So, I mean, whether you're working, well, from a functional medicine, working with a provider, yes, so many children are struggling with a lot of stuff, which is really sad, struggling with a lot of stuff that adults are struggling with because they're still exposed to all these stresses. And for a lot of kids, younger kids, it's not so much emotional stresses at that point, but some children are born with genetic issues where they're just more sensitive to environmental issues or toxins. Foods cause more inflammation than, say, another child. And so we do work with children as well. And often it's the parents that we've been working with, the mums in particular, then like, okay, now fix my children. So yeah, all the testing can be done with children as well, including babies, teenagers. I love working with kids because they respond so well. It's almost like they're this sponge that they don't have all the emotional baggage that a lot of adults have. That, so when you think about root causes to why your body's burnt out, there's like decades worth of stuff that you have to work through. Whereas a 5-year-old child responds really quickly. And so, whether it's gut issues, sleep issues, behavioral issues, it's almost like take out the bad stuff and put in the good stuff, and their body just sucks it up really quickly. So that's really nice. And then from a lifestyle point of view, yeah, all those things I mentioned, you can absolutely be doing it with the whole family. And that's what we encourage when we are working with parents as well. It's like, okay, so you need to kind of clean up what you're eating, but we're not teaching you this and coaching you through this just so that you can be healthy. It's so that you can pass this down to your children in like literally generations. Like we're changing generations, not just the one person. And so especially during the pandemic, when a lot of people are thinking about the immune system, I mean, I think about my kids all the time. They're about to go back to school. We know that COVID doesn't affect children the way that it does adults. So I'm not necessarily worried about them dying or anything like that. Has happened to some children, but, making sure that they're eating less white foods and more colorful foods, and also the way that you talk about your own stresses in front of your children. Again, they're sponges, like they pick up stuff, even if they don't understand what you're actually talking about, they're going to feel that vibe. And so if you think about their little bodies as like, they have a little bucket of stress that you want to keep that stress down as much as possible, so that one, they don't start developing physical symptoms, but also two, so that it's not going to be something that will flare up in 10 years time when they're a teenager or in the early 20s, because their bucket slowly over time is becoming too full, if that makes sense.
That's a beautiful message. And yeah, like young kids especially are just so malleable. Like they don't have all these like rules and beliefs that adults have, so they just can change and pivot really.
Yes.
Pivot them to something healthy, right?
Yes. In saying that, I mean, I do have children, and like, I'm not a helicopter. You can't eat this, you can't eat that. If we go out to like grandma's or to a restaurant, I also don't want to develop food disorders in them either. So I'm like, you have the choice to choose what you want to eat. I teach to them the consequences of what good foods, bad foods do to the body. And if they have a sugar crash, I'm like, it's probably because you ate a little bit too much sugar at that party. But giving them the choice as well, so that they don't feel caged, and so that it doesn't develop into something like an unhealthy disorder later on down the track. But I brought that up because it's something that you just said then, which was, I can't remember. Anyway, all good.
Okay. Oh yeah, so you mentioned that you're a big foodie, right? So I was wondering, do you have any like favorite healthy recipes you'd like to share with parents out there, or at least maybe some?
Okay, well, on my website, if you go to the blog, like every week I'm putting up new recipes. I don't know, give me a meal or a snack, like for the whole family, or
How about like a nice dinner for the family?
a nice dinner for the family? So I'm a big foodie, but I also don't love spending a lot of time in the kitchen. So a lot of our meals for family, like I have maybe our 5 or 6 staple meals that I'll just kind of rotate. And that are quick and easy to make. So I'm trying to think of something yummy. I mean, a lot of the time it's some sort of protein and vegetables. So whether that's a stir fry casserole, might just be steamed veggies with some steak or a salad or something like that. I do like to get creative though, and especially for the kids. So I'm like, okay, chicken nuggets. How can I make these healthy? So I do have a chicken nugget recipe on my blog. Super yummy though. Like instead of using deep fried flour and milk or whatever is used, I use I think like sesame seeds, cumin, almond meal, coat the little chicken pieces, and then fry them in the fryer. Like I like doing stuff like that, looking at junk foods and making it like a healthy version of it. I mean, pizzas are good too. And sometimes for the base, I might use different things, but something that I like using is a chia seed flatbread. So basically the only ingredients in that are chia seeds, quinoa, and water, and it's just grinded up. Do you guys have Thermomixes over there?
What are those? Maybe.
Thermomix? Okay, maybe not. Okay, it's just kind of like a high process blender. It's an amazing little gadget.
I think we do have. I personally don't. But...
Okay. So I'll use my Thermomix, and then it's a really, really runny liquid that you then bake really thinly, and it becomes, you can use it as pizza wrap, as a pizza base, or the other day we used it as like a taco kind of wrap thing for Mexican with lots of guacamole, carrots, that sort of stuff.
Well, that's great. And then people can always just check out your website if they want to find some more recipes. But I love that little like spin on how can I make this typically kind of like junk food type thing into something that's healthy but still in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful information. Do you have any other like apps or books or anything like that that you'd recommend for parents if they wanted to learn more about functional medicine or, eat a healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, awesome. So just a couple of resources on our website, which are free resources that a lot of people find quite helpful. Do you have show notes that you can put links?
Yeah, everything you share, I'll put in the description of the video so everyone will have the links and everything.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So on our website, actually, when you jump on the first homepage, there's a free, it's called an ending body burnout assessment. So there's about 72 questions that you answer, and at the end you get a report to show to what extent your body is burnt out, and also what the main contributors are from a body, mind, and environment perspective. And so that's really valuable because you get a lot of insights. It kind of compares you against like the general population as well. And it can give you insights into terms of like where are the weak links in your life, what might be causing your body burnout. So that one's quite good. We've also got a hormonal and gut burnout mini course. So it's a 10-part mini course that you can watch, and you learn more about hormones and gut, why they burn out, lab testing, treatment strategies that we use that you can use to help restore your body. Also too, and I talk about other ones, not my own in a second, but another one too, if you are wanting support around the pandemic, so whether that's just healthy immune support to prevent COVID, if you do get COVID, what to do, and also vaccinations and boosters, how you can, some strategies that you can use before and after vaccines to help promote a healthy immune response. So I created a course with, like, you've got everything that you need, therapeutic protocols. So those 3 things are on our website, which you might find useful. There are some other websites, apps, the Calm app. I'm pretty sure you guys, Calm app. That's like huge, but it's so good. It's also got a kids section as well too. So if you're wanting to do some like meditation with the kids before bed or something, you can use that, or there's adult versions of different things. There's some quizzes that I love too when it comes to families and relationships, and also knowing more about yourself so that you can do the things that you want to do to get healthy. So 5 languages, which most people have probably heard about. That's great to learn about your partner and your kids and how you show love and how they want love shown to them. Also, the 4 Tendencies quiz by Gretchen Rubin. Have you heard of that one?
4 Tendencies? I don't think so.
Okay, she's amazing. She's American, actually. I think American. Yeah. So 4 Tendencies quiz looks at the part of your personality that keeps your own expectations and commitments. So if you've been listening to this, like anyone in your audience, and you're like, I really need to get healthy, I need to eat better, I need to exercise, but I just can't do the things because I don't know why. I just keep getting blocked. 4 Tendencies quiz, you can learn so much about your personality. And she has a book as well that goes along with the quiz. So many got like, oh my goodness, we use that with our clients all the time to help them actually achieve what they want to achieve. Then there's Happy Families. This is Dr. Justin Coulson. He's actually Australian, but he has a website, happyfamilies.com.au. Heaps of amazing blogs. He's written lots of books around parenting, which is really good. And then there's another functional medicine doctor in America, Dr. Alyssa Song, Healthy Kids, Happy Kids. She's amazing. She specifically works with children from a functional medicine perspective, but again, lots of amazing resources, especially around the pandemic at the moment, and helping with the immune system and stress and mental health and that sort of stuff.
Amazing. And now I want to take the 4 Tendencies quiz and see.
Yeah, do it and then send me an email. I love like learning what people are. I'm like, ooh, I always have a little guess thinking, I think you might be that person.
I definitely will. All right. And then finally, if anyone wants to find you or work with you, because obviously you're amazing. So where can they find you online?
Yeah, so probably our website's the easiest place to go to. So that's www.chrisandphilly.fm. That's our website. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the social media places also.
All the social media.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Filipa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing all your wonderful knowledge and information. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I love that you're doing this podcast as well. It's so needed at this time.
I've really enjoyed, and I feel like I've learned a lot just about parenting, even not being a parent myself. I'm like, wow, I'm like learning so much about parenting, and hopefully it'll prepare me well when it finally comes.
Awesome.
All right. Well, hopefully we can have you again on sometime, and take it easy down in Australia.
Thank you. See ya.
All right. We're going to do a quick wrap up recap today because we're already running out of time. But Filipa shared some amazing information, talked about functional medicine and how it's a combination of these natural therapies and science. So there's a lot of testing, whether it's blood, urine, spit, whatever, to kind of find those imbalances in the body. We also talked about how stress can be so damaging to the body. It can eat away muscle tissue. It can just cause all those cortisol levels to rise and cause all sorts of problems, just wreak havoc in your body, really. And then Filipa shared also a whole bunch of ways how to kind of counteract that stress, whether it's eating differently, emotional wellness, getting therapy, how to minimize stress in your life. And there's lots of great ways to do that. And then finally, she shared a bunch of great resources. So I definitely encourage you to go check it out. As always, all that stuff will be in the show notes. So definitely check out the description. And if you want all those links. So this has been Pandemic Parenting for this week. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.